Hello and welcome to this edition of Take the Fear Out of Gear with me, Jason Bangers.
And Mr. Chumley Warner.
So what we have today is a Micro BR 4-track mini recorder. Digital as well, I might add. Quite handy because I think you get about 32 ghost tracks on each track, so you can do several solos and just pick the one you want. However, I want to make a point very quickly for the people that might just want to know about this particular one thing, which when I bought it I wanted to know about, and there weren't anywhere on YouTube that said about it. Every video on YouTube about this that's out there, and there are millions of them, I tell you that now, every one of them is they talk about the sound quality, the sound effects, how many there are, the rhythms, the drum patterns, how to record on it and such like, but we ain't going to tell you about that because it's already out there. Point I personally wanted to bring to you, because I bought this and I got this for £40 off of eBay. It was an eBay purchase. I wanted a Line 6 pocket pod and they were fetching too much money. I did have one but sold it and regret that now, so if you got one, don't get rid of it, keep it, because this doesn't really come up to its standard, but it's a kind of similar sort of thing. But the problem with this is I couldn't find out how long the battery life was. So being a portable device, something you're going to take out with you, use in the back of a car on the way to a gig or something like that, or before you go to a rehearsal you might just want to sit in the back of the car if someone's driving and have a little play along. The only thing is the battery life. It takes two AA batteries, they're both 1.5 volt as you're all aware, so there you've got 3 volts of power. It lasts 5 to 10 minutes. Now I say 5 to 10 minutes because if you're wearing headphones and you've got it turned up quite loud, then it draws more power. I mean, 5 to 10 minutes on a mobile or a portable device, for me, that's just not enough. So if you really want to know about battery life, there you go. There it is in a nutshell. So what I thought I'd do, I thought it'd be clever, so I thought there must be ways of extending the battery life, you know, so I thought there must be a way of sort of like adding something on, you know, to give it more life. And so on the side here you got 9 volt, DC 9 volt input there, so you can plug it in obviously, but when you're in the back of a car you can't, because there's no AC outlets. So what I thought I'd do, I thought if I make a lead up for that with a 9 volt battery on the end of it, that has got to give me more than 5 minutes, hasn't it? So I've got a PP3, a 9 volt battery, I made up a lead, did it, it worked. So it come on, lit up, brilliant. I thought, this is it, this is the one. And it goes below, once it goes below 9 volts, can't speak properly, then this cuts off, see, because it needs 9 volts to work it. So once it gets below 9 volt, it dies, and it took about approximately 5 minutes before it dropped below 9 volt, and I just couldn't believe it. So it didn't last any longer at all. So then Simon's idea was, as you said to me, get a power supply. You know, like what you get to power up your phones with?
Yeah, it's like your battery packs to charge your phone, so we thought USB, try it.
There's a USB on there. The USB socket only does interface changing, like i.e. uploading sounds or putting across what you've recorded onto the internet on your recording devices, or straight on the Facebook or YouTube or wherever if you want to put your music on there. So instead of having to take the secure digital card out, which has got, you can do it via the USB, but it doesn't charge it, it doesn't power it, it hasn't got rechargeable batteries. So my gripe with this particular thing is the battery life. 5 to 10 minutes is not enough, boss. It is not enough. So anyway, that's kind of my growl. There is another one, but I'll let Simon tell you some more about it now. And over to you, old boy.
Yeah, we're just going to talk a little bit about the build quality. It's an all plastic case, so you've got to be a little bit careful. If we look at the jack socket here, it's just plastic. You've got to be a little bit careful, it's just a hole. And I think the other main thing with it is, if you want to practice with this, so you want to play along to a song, there's 2 ways of doing it. And just before we say that, we'll just mention the inputs, because I think you've got a mic, a line input on it, and you can't.
We just mentioned, sorry to interrupt, there's an internal mic built in there as well, right on the front there, so I
you've tried that as well, haven't you?
It's bloody good. It's good, convincing.
So yeah, if you want to jam along with it, obviously you can put your phone or whatever device into the line input, you plug your guitar into the guitar input, but because you've got to choose between mic line and guitar input, you can't do that. So you can't have two things going in at once. So you've got two options. The first option is load the song onto your SD card in the back, and then you can play along with it. Or the second option is you obviously use the line in, record on one of the tracks, then play your guitar or instrument along to it. And so those are your two options.
It's just a shame that you can't come straight out of your mobile phone via a 3.5 jack socket into an auxiliary input, because it hasn't got an auxiliary input. We know auxiliary inputs are generally global across the whole thing, whereas the 3.5 jack insert on that is a line input. And as Simon rightly said, once you've put if you put your iPhone in, you want to listen to the music on your iPhone, well, as soon as you plug your guitar in, you'll either hear the iPhone or you'll hear your guitar, but you won't hear both unless you record it onto the card first. Now, with other devices out there, i.e. the Pocket Pod, what I was telling you about, it's got an auxiliary in, headphone socket, so you plug in your mobile phone via the 3.5mm jack socket into your pod, and then you can just directly dial up a guitar module and play along to the music that's playing on your phone. You can't do it on there. That's a little gripe for me personally.
I think the other thing you discovered as well was when you've recorded your song, you've done your song, you've decided what drums you want to use.
Yeah.
And then the top tip for today is if you haven't read the manual.
Whoever reads the manual?
We don't read the manual, but we had to look into this, because if you hold down the stop and record button, that saves your drum data.
Yes, sorry about that inside, but the problem I had is I wrote a song on it. I didn't write a song, I just wanted to see how easy it was to record, so I recorded, so I found my drum beat, okay, and every time you hit play, the drum beat automatically starts. Now you can program them so that they're written, so you can do a count in, you can do a verse, a chorus, a middle eight, a bridge, back to a verse, to a chorus, you can do all that on this. But just for a quick recording, I just wanted a quick 4/4 beat, which I got. I laid down a bass line, then I put a guitar over it, then I put a vocal over it, and I put a solo over it. And it was great, but when I saved it, and I come back to it the next day, I switched it on and went to play it back, everything was in place, it all played, but the drums were out of sync. And I thought, well, hang on a minute, how'd you record the drums as well? So as Simon, because I said to Simon, I don't know, because he's the tech head, I said, I don't know how to get the drums to stay in sync with what I've just recorded. And as Simon said, go on, tell him again, dude. So when you've done your song,
yeah, make sure you press, here we go, stop and record at the same time, and that saves your drum data, so your drums are in sync.
Let's be honest, would you have thought of doing that, really? Because, I mean, there's a fella on the internet and he says, do you know, guys, he said, I was able to use this thing without reading the manual, it's so self-explanatory. Well, I don't know how he managed to save his drums unless he recorded them on a channel separately rather than just picking them from the brain. But yeah, it's quite simple. So end of the song, stop, record, and then it's there it's carved in stone then, it's there in turn forever. But I think for the money though, Boss have done a good job. All in all, I would recommend buying it. I was just looking at the reflection of my face you could actually, here's one for the ladies, if there's for those lady musicians of you out there, you can use this as a mirror. You can do your makeup, you can do your eyeliner, it's a brilliant mirror, you have a look at that, look.
Oh dear, that's scary, that is.
It's quite scary.
A nice mirror, yeah.
It's the lighting in here. So that's this week's edition of Take the Fear Out of the Gear. That is the Boss BR Micro, or the Boss Micro BR digital recorder. Fantastic quality on soundback, it'll blow your mind, it's really good, but there are gripes with it. So for now, it's goodbye from me.
And it's goodbye from me.
We'll see you again, tubers, take care, look after yourselves.
See you next time.